Let's have a talk, let's have a chat, talking about a little this and that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of This and That. I am your host, Mary Easterling, and today we will be continuing on the war we fight with the Day of Tears. But before I begin, to listen to anything else from This and That, or to listen to the other episodes of this series, The War We Fight on This and That, go to talkingaboutthисandthat.wordpress.com and click on the podcast link. Bob Newman's writings will be featured in our blog. The blog has read more links. Click on them. They take you to the article, which has the podcast, which opens in a separate tab so you can listen while you look. Today's episode was written July 1999. It's called The Thunder and the Tears. Bob writes, I was sitting at my keyboard a few nights ago when a low, deep rumbling filled and vibrated my home. I went out to the patio in the early morning dark, amazed because it was a continuous sound and shaking. Sometimes very low-flying 747s and C-5s have done this, and shortly after Hurricane Andrew, low and slow Jolly Greens did the same. But now it was an already unearthly long, and there was no Doppler effect. In my spirit, I felt the vague uneasiness when I realized I am in need of time at Abba's feet. Then I heard a faint weeping on the night breeze. It was something one cannot grow used to, either in the spirit or in the natural. There are many scriptures about crying and weeping, but at the same time, I could only touch two, the barren women and the verse that says, Jesus wept. Not long ago, the assembly of saints I worship with missed a quote-unquote time of visitation. At least I believe that in my spirit and have wept bitterly. I pray I am wrong. Says this show host with a lot of what I'm putting out right now. I pray I am so far off base that it's not funny. Why I can't shake the idea that I'm not bothers me. It bothers me a lot. Bob writes, yet I began to wonder how many failed to notice his presence, how many failed to receive what he offered, how many refused to listen and obey. Now, take this over the last year, the last 2,000 years, the last 6,000 years, and it is painful. In this depressing mood, I turned to go back into my home and found myself in a dark street. I was taken aback quite dramatically as I slowly walked to what looked like an intersection, but was not. What it was a huge courtyard. I looked up some steps and through a huge gate and saw the porch of the temple and the veil. I walked from the inner court up to the steps. As I walked, I felt the sudden chill that this is real. Cold stone on bare feet will do it to you. So does the smell as I pass the quote-unquote killing ground and the brazen altar. Full stop. The concept of killing ground and brazen altar, we're in the Temple Mount in Israel. Please understand, the temple meant you brought an animal, you took the knife and you slit the throat, and the Levite assisting the priest caught the blood of the animal as it's being pumped out and the animal's dying into a basin so that the blood could be presented where it had to be. Once your animal was dead, the Levites processed it so that the priest could bring the appropriate bits and pieces to place on the grate of what's basically a very big barbecue pit. Thing is, we don't just cook it, we cook it to ash. So we incinerate. So when this vision talks about killing ground, that's what they're talking about. The place where your offering for your sin is slaughtered. And immediately you're looking at a human being dying on a Roman cross, being slaughtered like the animal of the killing ground at the brazen altar in the temple up the hill or through the eastern gate going west. Maybe that gives you a better understanding of what Jesus went through for you. I don't know. Bob writes, the laver stood there and I rinsed off my hands and feet like I knew what I was doing. My head was covered and my garments were white. When I stepped up and into the holy place, I passed the menorah and watched the 7 lights flicker. they were running out of oil. The altar of showbread looked dry and stale. The loaves had been there all too long. The altar of incense was cold and bleak. As I stood before the altar of incense, I touched the closest horns, and I felt the tears run down my face. In my spirit I heard the words, "What could have been?" I suddenly noticed the great veil move a bit and wondered. On my face I sensed great heat in front of me. There was a glow coming through the veil, and I fell to my knees at the altar as I watched the veil tore in two, and before me was the pillar of fire. It/he was centered around the mercy seat. In my mind, I could only think, "Have mercy, Lord," but my mouth only stammered as I openly sobbed and sank to the floor. In my spirit, I could see the Shekinah going upward through the roof of the temple and filling the night sky. Then came the awareness that there was no one to see it, only you and those who read what I tell you to write. Full stop. Which means only him, only me, and only you who are listening to me. Nance will extend this. Bob writes, came his voice that filled both my ears and my spirit. But why do you pray for mercy? Am I not mercy and grace, blessing and favor? Yes, Lord, I replied, but Lord, I also know that you are holy and your name is jealous. You have shown me your city and temple abandoned. So I pray mercy, Lord. I don't know what else to do. On whom do you seek my mercy? On your people, Lord. This is a conversation between Bob and God. So God's reply here is, but who are my people? Those who hear me and obey, or those who deny me and war against my kingdom? There are only two kinds of people, my friend. Those who are for me and those who are against me. Full stop. So for all of you that are accused of being an us and them mentality, weigh this right now because it's scriptural. Said Jesus when he was told that somebody was going about and doing stuff in his name. He said, don't stop that person. Anybody that's working with me to gather things together and not scatter them apart is working with me for me. They're not against me. Everyone else is against him. Never ever forget, in Eden, two seeds were born. One's name was Cain, seed of the serpent. The other, Abel, who was killed, Seth, that replaced him, was seed of the woman. Adam became the quintessential seed for the serpent because he chose another wisdom, that of the woman, that of the serpent. Jesus is the wisdom of God, okay? The spirit of wisdom is living in us, but Jesus is the wisdom of God, the word of God, the creating, hands in the dirt, if you will, God doing through him, dying through him, reconciling the world back to himself through him. Okay, and he's the one that said, if you're against me, I'm against you. And yet he told us, pray for those who are your enemies. You know, it's funny, he never told us what to pray for them, but David did. David has lots of interesting prayers to pray for those who despitefully use us, who persecute us. I don't know where this broadcast goes. It's on YouTube. So if you're in another country where they're raping your people who are believers in Jesus Christ, which means that you're my family, and God, I wish I could do something for you, but I can't. I'm in another nation that they're not doing that to us yet. Give it time. It's coming to us. We're the United States. We're not as united as we used to be. Pendulum swung all the way to the right. It's about to swing all the way to the left again with a vengeance. And this time it will be open season on all of the church. That's where most of the money is anyway. Those of you that have an us or them mentality have to understand that God is into diversity in his kingdom, equity in his kingdom, and inclusion in his kingdom. The only exclusion policy he has is, if you're not in his kingdom, you are against him and his enemy. That's the only us and them you've got. But you, O Christian, must show the compassion and mercy of God on all those that are not his. Why? Heaps up the coals on their head. And at the judgment seat, they can't say, but you never did anything for me. And that takes me right back to the separation of the sheep and goats, where he says to the goats, when you didn't do it to the least of these. And I said, I'll go out on a limb. He probably points to the sheep. Right. But the sheep were supposed to pray. I don't know. There are a lot of imprecatory prayers, but I'd be willing to bet they were supposed to pray for mercy. Why? Because there would be none. But we can't be found praying against the love of God. Of course, I might be wrong there. Let's go on. Bob writes, forgive me, Lord, but I am praying for those who have fallen away, the prodigals who are awaiting to return to Abba. This next line is going to scare me. It scares me. It's going to scare you. Then your prayers have been answered. All those who were to return have done so. Lord, what of those who have? And he cut me off. Shmuel, do not pray for these people any longer. There are those who bless me. They are your fellow servants. There are those who are against me, whom you are at war with. Then there are those who merely ignore me and marginalize me in their lives, the ones who go through the motions to impress others like themselves. These I now turn my back to, full stop. In my last episode, I said one of the worst things that God could do is absolutely nothing at all. To, by and large, pull back his truth, justice, mercy, etc., from the government of a nation, to have compassion on its people, and leave that nation to its own devices, greed, arrogance, etc., so that it will from within destroy itself. I don't think I'm wrong in that assessment, folks. Welcome to the United States, where God is not really caring what happens to it. As in, the saints are on their own. If they didn't hook up with the look up to He who is up above all things, snake lines included, they've missed it. Maybe they'll wake up, because you can always repent. Only if He grants grace for it. Yeah, that's a tough road to hoe. Bob writes, with that the fire rose up and moved above my head and forward. As I turned and walked out of the temple, the lights of the menorah had gone out. When I stepped out into the inner court, I knew I was watching Ezekiel play out. As the glory/fire stood above the porch, I saw the men with swords and one man with the inkwell. I watched as this one great angel came up to me and right on my forehead and turned to go into the city. I looked up and watched, trying to decide what to ask, and he beat me to it. What happened before will happen again, Shmuel. You warned them. Those who heard and prepared my room will be marked and spared my judgment. For now, the one who restrains has been removed. Michael, the chief priest, has stepped aside, and now it can begin. With that, the lone angel returned, bowed to the most holy, and the 6 angels who had departed with swords drawn left. As they moved into the city, the glory rose and departed. I felt a tearing in my spirit, and I heard these words. Please listen. It's going to be all right. Full stop again. Some of you that are listening to this are starting to tear apart. I'm doing these broadcasts, and it is taking a toll on me. I'm doing as I believe I'm being told to do. This is 1999. This is 26 years ago. Hindsight, they say, is always 20/20. Yeah, back in 1999, and my mother's in hospice, and my hospice nurse came today, and I managed to give a warning to her to pass on to the nursing staff. In South Florida, the detention center for immigration services is now built in the Everglades. Alligator Alcatraz is what they're calling it, right? This means that according to possibly CNN, possibly, Dade County Police and ICE are going to start going door to door looking for quota. So if you're Hispanic, they can simply delete your records, claim that your driver's license is not legitimate, that you're actually an illegal resident, you faked your license, slap you in cuffs, detain you, and maybe, I don't know what they'll do to you out there. you can but die. And if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, guess where you're going? Your last breath? Hell. If you are a believer in Jesus Christ, guess where you're going? To see him. Of course, you can't do anything for anybody you leave behind. No, I get that. That's the most frightening thing I know of. Broward County will be next. So if you are people who go places as nurses' aides or nurses for you visit the home, if you see the cops and you see what looks like ice, don't keep the appointment. Drive by. Keep driving. Don't park there. You do not want to walk in on that. Everybody may present their ID. ICE may turn around and go, okay, have a nice day, and leave. You don't want to take the risk of showing up and they decide to look for your ID and decide you're somebody who's going to fit quota for today, and they put you in cuffs and they take you away. Do you think you can call your agency? No. The terrified, traumatized client might call your agency and say, hey, they arrested my nurse or my aide or my fill in the blank. This is what I told my hospice care worker for my mother. If you see these people, don't stop here. Text me. Are you okay? Are you safe? If you're a healthcare worker that does this, goes out, don't stop. Circle back in about 15, 20 minutes. Just drive down the street. If you don't see anybody, keep driving by, pull over somewhere, text your client. Are you people okay? Are you people safe? I'm the nurse. I'm the something or other. Can I come? Do you need help? Protect yourselves. You're at risk. But for the most part, those who are his, he will keep in the midst of this darkness. They will not come to you and hurt you. And even if they do, remember, you can but be taken off of this earth as a martyr and see Jesus. No, those are not pleasant words. And that might be all he means by it's going to be all right at this time. But it is going to be all right. Somehow, some way, he will remember his own. To the rest of you, good luck. Bob writes, when I turned, I saw Abba sitting and ran to his feet. He put his hand on my head and whispered, you've grown up, Shmuel, in my house, for I have called you to serve me, just as my only begotten serves me. All born in my house are trained with the sword. All who serve me alone weep and mourn. I will dry their tears, and they will do as I ask. Obedient children are the Father's glory. As I looked into his face and saw his smile, I understood how he grieves once again, and he kissed me, and I was back home in this so-called real world. In obedience I write what I saw and heard and felt, and I send Selah, old dog. My comments came in this. I close with these things. During the elections, 2023-24, when I watched them cut the legs out from underneath Biden, I knew who was going to win. The chatter was going back and forth with me and the King of Glory about, shall I play my card again? When I play my card again, of course that should have been the clue because I didn't think he was actually going to do it. That would be my first mistake, betting against God doing it when he's telling me when. So when this man became elected in a landslide, no less, where he had flipped most all the states in the Union to Republican, meaning he had all the oarsmen at the oars were his peeps. Those that are dissenters are not going to run again because they know they can't win. They can't fight this, which means that MAGA representatives will take their place. For each one of you out there that hold office and are cowardly and say, well, if I don't vote, what will POTUS do to me? You don't serve POTUS, you serve us. That's what you were elected to do. So if you're not lame ducking a man of immeasurable power, what are you doing? You may as well not run again. But thank you very much. In not running, you will have elected into office by default someone who serves this new master. And if in 2028, 29, 30, whatever, you think that this man is actually going to leave office, God, I hope he does. He tried not to the last time. Now he has all the power on his side. What do you think he's going to do now? There are special circumstances where Congress, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution are suspended. It's a perfect storm, and all he has to do is make it happen. And we don't have Constitution anymore. We have something brand new in this country, a king. And we might go from an Antichrist to the Antichrist, which is going to mess me over real good because whatever happened to Seal 6 and how did I miss that? And how was that not on the news? Mountains and islands? What was the imagery? How did I miss it? I can't figure this out. Make no mistake, our nation is under an interdict from the living God because we, the Christians, did not oppose the tares. But there is in our midst someone called the daughter of Zion, several someones, who are supposed to rise and thresh. That means that they rise and they winnow and they thresh. You dehull the grain as you're separating the grain from the tares in a very strong wind. Oh, no, see, God is actually here, but it's no longer pleasant. The storm Bob warned us about has been blowing since the first time Trump got into office, and he never left. His cronies have been in the background during Biden era running the nation behind a man who was lame ducked. So no, this is Trump's third term, logistically. But he wasn't actually seated, so he gets to say this is only term 2. And if you think aging out is going to stop it, apparently there's another Trump that wants to throw his hat in the ring. He might be the next thing that gets elected. See, the tares have this nagging, irritating thing. They're tenacious, and they don't go away easy. It's going to take the Ancient of Days to bring the fire down on this nation. Who knows? Maybe it'll come out of Canada and roll on the boulevard, like I saw back in 1999. Tanks rolling on the boulevard and people being rounded up into sand brown buses back in the 2015, 2016, 2017 era. Yeah, that's also coming. And they go and they never come back. You think that ICE is bad? They're only the beginning. Immigration Services is the brown shirt of Hitler's Germany, or will become it, because after all, they're just going to follow orders. They don't care what those orders are, because they come with a paycheck. And everybody's got to have their god, called Mamona. And that will do it for this episode of This and That. Until then,